You scan a QR code to pay for parking, and within minutes, your card details are gone. No broken website. No warning screen. No suspicious pop-up. Just a clean black and white square that quietly opens the door to a global crime machine. This is the scam most people never see coming because it doesn't ask you to click, it asks you to scan. And behind that single scan sits one of the largest fraud ecosystems law enforcement has ever uncovered. Over the past few years, criminals learned something critical. People trust QR codes. They trust them on parking meters, restaurant tables, invoices, emails, posters, even official-looking letters. A QR code feels modern, safe, efficient, and that trust is exactly what caused Quishing to explode. Quishing is QR code phishing. Instead of sending a suspicious link, criminals hide the trap inside an image. Scan it, and you're redirected to a fake payment page, a cloned login screen, or a silent data harvesting site. Because the attack starts with an image, it often slips past spam filters and security systems designed to flag bad URLs or dangerous text. In real-world cases, criminals physically placed fake QR stickers over legitimate ones, parking meters, public donation boxes, event posters. You think you're paying a small fee, but you're actually handing your card details to someone who now controls them. And that stolen data rarely stops at one charge. Investigators say those card details feed into a much larger system, one designed not to steal everything at once but to drain victims slowly, quietly, and across borders. That brings us to what police called Operation Chargeback. In early November 2025, authorities across multiple continents launched a coordinated crackdown on a massive fraud and money laundering network. By the end of the operation, 18 suspects had been arrested worldwide. But the arrest count only hints at the scale. According to investigators, the network targeted approximately 4.3 million cardholders across 193 countries. Nearly every country on Earth, confirmed losses exceeded 300 million euros, with attempted fraud estimated at more than 750 million euros. This wasn't smash-and-grab crime. This was industrial-scale financial theft. The core method was deceptively simple. Using stolen card data, the network created fake online subscriptions. Dating sites, adult platforms, streaming services, all designed to look legitimate enough to pass early checks. Between 2016 and 2021, investigators believe the group generated around 19 million fake subscriptions. Here's what made it so effective. The charges were small, often under 50 euros a month, low enough that many victims didn't notice right away. Or they noticed, but couldn't trace the charge back to anything specific. Billing descriptions were vague. Company names unfamiliar, cancellation paths intentionally confusing. And by the time someone contacted their bank, weeks or months of charges had already cleared. What made the scheme even harder to stop was how it handled complaints. Victims trying to cancel hit dead ends. Emails bounced. Phone numbers led nowhere. Some sites demanded extra verification just to unsubscribe. Others simply ignored requests. By the time banks got involved, the transactions had blended into long account histories. Investigators say this delay was intentional. The longer a charge runs, the harder it is to reverse. Chargeback windows close, evidence fades, and victims begin doubting themselves. Did I sign up for this? Was it a trial? Did I forget? That hesitation bought the criminals time. Multiply that delay across millions of cards and the numbers grow fast. Another shield was fragmentation. One company handled subscriptions. Another processed payments. A third owned the domains. A fourth managed customer support. Each piece looked harmless on its own. Together, they formed a maze designed to exhaust anyone chasing accountability. Even banks struggled. Each transaction passed compliance checks because nothing looked extreme, no massive withdrawals, no sudden spikes. Just steady, low-value charges spread across countries and currencies. This is why authorities say modern fraud doesn't look like theft anymore. It looks like business. And that's the real warning buried inside this case. Financial crime has learned how to imitate legitimacy. It borrows real business models, subscriptions, payment processors, customer portals, branding language that feels familiar and safe. By the time law enforcement intervenes, the damage is already global, which raises an uncomfortable question. If millions of people can be quietly billed for years without realizing it, how many similar systems are still operating right now? Ask yourself this: how often do people read their statements line by line? How many small charges slide through because they don't feel urgent? That blind spot was the business model. But running millions of fake subscriptions requires more than stolen cards. It requires access to the financial system itself. And this is where the case turns darker. Among the 18 arrested were 5 executives or officials from 4 German payment service providers. Authorities allege they knowingly allowed fraud networks to use payment infrastructure in exchange for fees. In other words, the criminals didn't just exploit users. They allegedly had help inside the payment rails. That matters because payment processors are supposed to be gatekeepers. They enforce compliance. They monitor suspicious activity. They protect consumers from abuse. Instead, investigators say certain insiders helped route fraudulent transactions, making them appear legitimate and harder to block. The operation also relied heavily on shell companies, many registered in Cyprus and the United Kingdom. These entities existed mostly on paper. Their role was to obscure ownership, complicate chargebacks, and create distance between the fraud and the people behind it. Some of these structures came from what authorities describe as crime-as-a-service providers, ready-made companies. Fake directors, clean documentation, all available for a fee. This wasn't a basement operation. It was a professionalized ecosystem. Law enforcement actions tied to the case span Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, Spain, Cyprus, the Netherlands, the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Singapore. More than 60 house searches were carried out. Digital evidence seized. Assets frozen. Luxury vehicles and cryptocurrency reportedly confiscated. And what makes this case especially relevant now is how Quishing fits into the front end of the system. QR scams are no longer niche. In the UK alone, reports of QR code fraud more than doubled year over year. In just the first quarter of 2025, over 500 cases were reported, many escalating into far larger losses. You scan a QR code on a parking meter, it looks official. You enter your card details, you pay a small amount. Nothing feels wrong. That data can be sold, reused, or fed into subscription fraud systems like the one exposed in Operation Chargeback. One scam becomes dozens of charges over months across borders. And because the charges are small and spread out, detection comes late. This is why investigators say modern financial crime isn't about hacking banks. It's about hacking human behavior. QR codes remove friction. They bypass skepticism. They turn physical space into digital traps. The criminals behind this operation understood that perfectly. They also understood something else. Most victims blame themselves. They think they clicked the wrong thing, missed a warning, so they hesitate to report it. Multiply the hesitation by millions, and you get a system that can run quietly for years. Even now, authorities warn this may only be part of the ecosystem. Payment fraud adapts fast. When one channel closes, another opens. The arrests matter. The seizures matter, but the technique remains. So the next time you see a QR code in public, ask a simple question: who put this here? And what happens after the scan? Because behind some of those squares aren't menus or meters, but entire criminal supply chains built on small charges, silent drains, and exploited trust. And here's the uncomfortable truth. As payments become faster and frictionless, fraud doesn't disappear. It just gets quieter. If a global network can touch 4.3 million cardholders across 193 countries without most noticing right away, that isn't a failure of awareness. It's a failure of systems built for convenience over scrutiny. And that's exactly where financial crime is heading next. If you want to stay ahead of it, keep watching, because the scams shaping the future aren't loud anymore. They're subtle, they're embedded, and they're already closer than most people think.